Anya stepped off her ship, her boots sinking slightly into the scorched earth beneath her. The sun above blazed without mercy, its light an unnatural, unblinking gaze that never faltered. She stood in the middle of a wasteland, a place where time had seemingly stopped, where nothing moved but the dust carried by a wind that smelled of burned metal and charred remains. The battlefield where the day war had ended, but the war itself never truly had. The Day War Memorial was nothing more than a vast, open expanse of blackened ground, where twisted remnants of ships and equipment lay scattered, half buried in ash. It had once been a testing ground for a solar weapon, a device meant to bring an end to the war. The weapon had succeeded, but not in the way the Empire had intended. Instead of a controlled strike, the solar burst had vaporized an entire fleet, turned the planet's surface to glass, and left an eternal, unyielding light to hang in the sky. Anya felt the weight of the place pressing down on her. She had come here for answers. Answers that had haunted her for years. Why was the war never fully over? Why was Earth's role in it erased, its legacy buried beneath layers of lies and rewritten history? What had really happened on this battlefield? The air was thick, heavy, as if time itself refused to pass. Every step she took seemed to echo in the silence that surrounded her. The distant, burnt skyline of wrecked ships stood like the bones of some long-forgotten beast. The only sound that broke the stillness was the occasional creak of twisted metal, as though the land itself was groaning under the weight of history. Then she saw him. A figure, hunched and broken, moved slowly across the battlefield, his skin burned and scarred, his clothes tattered and singed. He carried himself with a limp, each step a painful reminder of a past that wouldn't let go. Anya had heard stories of survivors, of those few who had managed to endure the solar blast. She had not expected to find one here, though. Not so far from the rest of the galaxy, not in this haunted place. "Hey," Anya called out, her voice sounding thin against the vast emptiness. "Are you all right?" The man stopped and turned his head toward her. His eyes, though faded and weary, held a glint of recognition. But it wasn't a look of welcome. It was something else, something more akin to fear. "You shouldn't be here," he rasped, his voice rough, like it had been unused for years. "Time never lets go." Anya frowned, stepping closer, but keeping a wary distance. "What do you mean? What happened here?" The man's gaze drifted over the battlefield, his eyes distant, lost in some memory that would never fade. He exhaled shakily, the sound like a gust of wind through dead leaves. This place is cursed. It's a wound in time. The war was supposed to end here, but the weapon, it was too powerful. It tore through more than just the ships. It tore through everything. This place, it doesn't age, doesn't change. The sun never sets. The ashes never blow away. Anya's pulse quickened. "What are you saying?" "Time is locked here." He nodded, slowly, his eyes filled with a mixture of sorrow and dread. "You can't change it. You can't fix it. It's been this way for so long. I don't even remember when it started. I don't remember when time stopped. But it was the weapon, the solar weapon. It didn't just kill. It froze everything. The light, the heat, the sky, it never dims. Never." Her mind raced, trying to piece together the fragments of his words. This was more than a battlefield. It was a place where history had been sealed in time. A wound that could never heal. "Who did this?" Anya asked. "Who made the weapon? Why is Earth's history buried here?" The man shook his head, as though the very thought pained him. The Empire. They had their reasons, but it wasn't supposed to happen like this. Earth's legacy, it's been erased. The weapon, it was meant to end the war. But instead, it became a memory, a legend no one believes. And then they erased Earth's place in it. They wanted to forget. All of it. The rebellion, the human legacy, the war we lost. Anya felt her heart drop. She had known, deep down, that Earth's history had been manipulated, erased, hidden away, but to hear it spoken aloud, to know that the Empire had twisted the past so completely, it was almost too much to bear. Earth had fought. Earth had resisted. And yet here she was, standing in the shadow of its forgotten legacy. She took another step forward, the man's warning echoing in her mind, but something else tugged at her. The pull of this place, the way it called to her, was stronger than anything she had felt before. She had to know more. She had to uncover the truth, no matter the cost. "Is there a way to make it stop?" she asked. "Can we fix this? Can we free the past?" The man didn't answer at first. Instead, he turned his eyes to the sky, where the unblinking sun hung like a terrible reminder. His shoulders slumped, and for a moment, Anya thought he might collapse. "I've been here too long," he murmured. "I've lived through the war, lived through the aftermath. But I can't escape it. This place, it holds us." She looked around the barren field once more. It was as though the very ground had been scorched by the memories of all the lost souls who had fought here. A place frozen, trapped in time. But for Anya, it was more than just a memorial. It was the key to unlocking the truth, the key to uncovering what had really happened and why the galaxy had gone to such lengths to bury Earth's legacy. She could feel the weight of history pressing on her, the suffocating silence around her, the way the sun seemed to burn brighter the longer she stayed. It was a place of death, of forgotten battles, of erased identities, but it was also a place of truth. "You don't have to be here," the man whispered. "You don't have to find the answers." Anya looked at him, her resolve hardening. I have to know why Earth was erased, why everything we'd fought for is gone. I'm not running anymore." The man didn't say anything else. He just turned, slowly, and began to walk away, leaving Anya alone on the battlefield. But as he walked, Anya noticed something. The light, the intense, never-ending sunlight, began to flicker, just for a moment. The air trembled, as though something deep beneath the earth was stirring, something ancient and powerful. She felt a sudden chill, and her instincts screamed at her to move. But she couldn't tear her gaze away. For the first time since she had landed on this cursed planet, she saw something beyond the wreckage, beyond the war. A faint shimmer in the air, like a tear in the fabric of time itself. It was as though a memory, long forgotten, was trying to break through, trying to remind her of something she had long since buried. Anya's heart raced as the realization hit her. The truth was here, in this place, somewhere in the ashes and the broken ships, somewhere in the endless light that never dimmed, was the answer. The truth about Earth, the truth about the day war, and she would find it, no matter what it cost. The air was thick with the weight of silence as Anya moved through the haunting battlefield. The earth beneath her boots felt cold, unnaturally still, like a place that had forgotten the passage of time. The sky above was an endless sheet of ashen gray, lit by an unblinking sun that offered no warmth. This was a place frozen in time, where the echoes of a past war lingered in every corner, every twisted metal carcass of fallen ships, and the scorched remnants of shattered cities. Anya's heart ached with the ghost of a memory she couldn't escape. She had come here seeking answers, but the very ground seemed to hold secrets that were meant to stay buried. The wind whispered, not in the language of the living, but in fragmented syllables that carried the weight of ages. At first, Anya thought it was the wind itself, the way it howled across the barren landscape, the way it rustled through the skeletal remains of broken structures. But as she walked deeper into the battlefield, she realized that the whispers were more than that. They were commands, orders, desperate shouts that reverberated through the air. Advance. Hold the line. Don't let them breach the command center. The words were sharp, clipped, as if etched into the very atmosphere by the forces of war. They came not from any living soldier, but from the past, from the soldiers who had once fought here, now frozen in time. The name that repeated over and over in the wind sent a shiver down Anya's spine. Commander Theron Voss. Theron, her mentor, her guide, the man who had taught her everything she knew about war, about leadership, about survival. His voice had been a constant in her life, steady and unwavering, until the mission that had gone wrong. The mission that had left her scared and him lost, consumed by the flames of a conflict she could never forget. She had thought he was dead, thought the chaos of the final battle had claimed him along with so many others. But now, as the whispers grew louder, more insistent, she felt an unsettling stirring deep in her soul. Something was wrong. The war had ended. The world had moved on, or so she thought. Yet here, in this forsaken place, time had no power. And the past refused to stay buried. Her feet carried her across the blasted landscape, drawn to a structure ahead. A crumbling command post, half sunken into the scorched earth. Its walls were cracked, and its entrance was sealed tight, the heavy doors still intact after all these years. But Anya knew that within, something waited. She felt it, deep in her bones, the pull of an old connection. She reached the door and hesitated, the weight of the moment pressing down on her. She had come here to face the past, to confront the memories that had haunted her for so long. But now, standing at the threshold, she wasn't sure she was ready. What would she find inside? What would the echoes of the past reveal? Her hand gripped the cold metal handle, and with a twist, the door creaked open. Inside, the air was heavy, stale with the scent of age and abandonment. The walls were lined with faded maps, long-forgotten orders, and the scattered remnants of a once bustling war room. But it was the figure in the center of the room that caught Anya's breath. Commander Theron Voss stood before her, frozen in time like the world around him. His face was still, his eyes unblinking, locked in a gaze that seemed to pierce through the very fabric of reality. His uniform was worn, torn at the edges, but his presence, his aura, was undeniable. It was as if he had never left, as if he had been waiting here all this time for her to find him. Anya's heart raced, her breath catching in her throat. She had seen death, had experienced the horrors of war, but this was something different. The man who had once been her mentor, her leader, was now a phantom of the past, trapped in a moment of time that refused to let him go. The whispers intensified, filling the room with their disembodied voices, echoing through the walls. Anya could hear them more clearly now, words of warning, of regret, of final commands that had been given long ago. Find the truth, Anya. It's all here, in the ashes of the war. You must understand. You must know why we failed. The voice was Theron's, but it felt distant, like a memory slipping away just beyond her reach. Anya took a step forward, drawn to the frozen figure of her mentor. She had never expected to see him again. And yet, here he was, as if frozen in time itself, waiting for her to uncover the secrets of their past. Theron, she whispered, her voice barely audible in the stillness. But there was no answer, only the eerie silence that stretched out before her. She reached out a trembling hand, touching the cold surface of his shoulder. As her fingers made contact, something stirred in the air, an electric charge that hummed through her body, sending a jolt of energy racing through her veins. The whispers grew louder, almost deafening now, until Anya couldn't tell where the past ended and the present began. The figure of Theron flickered for a moment, his face contorting in pain, his eyes briefly coming to life before they dulled again. A message, one she wasn't ready to hear, flashed in her mind. It wasn't just the enemy we fought, Anya. It was ourselves. Anya stepped back, her heart pounding in her chest. The room felt colder now, as if the very air had turned to ice. She had come here looking for answers, but what she found only deepened the mystery. Commander Theron Voss was not dead, at least not in the way she had thought. His legacy, his mistakes, and the weight of their mission together had all led them here, to this frozen moment in time. The echoes of the past would not be silenced, and neither would the cost of the war they had fought. Anya knew, with chilling certainty, that her journey was far from over. What she had uncovered in this command post was only the beginning. The truth of what had happened, of what they had done, would follow her like a shadow, a reminder of the choices made, and the lives lost. And the battlefield, silent and eternal, would never let her forget. Anya's boots crunched softly on the charred earth, each step echoing in the eerie stillness of the battlefield. The scorched landscape stretched out before her, an endless sea of blackened soil and broken steel. The sky, once vibrant, now hung as a cold, lifeless expanse, as if it too had been burned into stillness. It was the kind of place where time itself felt dead, frozen, as if the war had ended not with a bang, but a heavy silence. The command post loomed ahead, half buried in the ashes of the past. The structure was a twisted monument to what had once been a fortress, now reduced to nothing more than a scar on the earth. Anya's hand trembled as she reached for the door, the old metal groaning under her touch. Inside, it was darker, the air thick with dust, and the faint scent of burnt memories. Theron stood before her, or what was left of him. His body was suspended in the center of the room, encased in a strange, glowing stasis field. His once proud form was now a grotesque shadow of itself. His skin, though pale and waxen, retained the slightest hint of the man he used to be, his uniform frayed and faded. But his eyes, they were the most unsettling, hollow, like windows into an infinite abyss, where sorrow and rage collided in a single, endless stare. Anya's breath caught in her throat. "Theron," she whispered, her voice trembling as she stepped forward. At the sound of her name, his head jerked slightly, his hollow gaze locking onto her. Recognition sparked in his eyes, but it was not the warm, familiar look she remembered. There was something hauntingly wrong, a deep, unbearable sorrow etched into his features. His voice was a strange, dissonant mixture of grief and anger, a jarring contrast to the stillness of the room. "You shouldn't have come," he rasped, his voice cracking. "This place, it was meant to be our final resting place, but we were too strong to die." Anya's heart sank as the weight of his words hit her. The battlefield outside had been the end of everything, an end she'd thought she had buried along with the memories. But seeing Theron here, in this unnatural state, tore that illusion apart. She forced herself to step closer, to understand what had happened. What happened to you?" Her voice was barely a whisper, as though speaking too loud might shatter the fragile tension in the room. Theron's eyes, once filled with strength, now mirrored the torment of an endless loop. The solar weapon, it misfired. It tore through the fabric of time. Trapped me, trapped all of us. Not just our bodies, but our souls, caught in the light. Stuck here, in the moment the weapon failed. And now, I wait. Anya's stomach twisted. The reality of his words crashed into her, a cold, merciless truth. She could see it now, the way his eyes flickered, as though replaying the final moments of the war over and over again in his mind. The weight of the weapon, the devastation it had caused, not just in the physical world, but in time itself. "You've been waiting for me?" she asked, the question slipping out before she could stop it. Theron's lips twisted in a bitter, broken smile. "Yes, waiting for you to come and end it, to release me from this cage. I have been here for so long, Anya, trapped in this moment, caught in the light of a war that never ended." His voice faltered, and the sorrow in his eyes deepened. The weapon was meant to save us, to end the war. But all it did was tear us apart. Anya's mind spun as she tried to process everything. The solar weapon, the endless loop of time. Theron's words didn't just speak of physical suffering. They spoke of something far worse. The agony of being trapped in an unending moment, unable to escape, to move forward. Time itself had become their tormentor, a prison they couldn't escape. "I'm sorry," she whispered, more to herself than to him, though she knew it wouldn't change anything. "Nothing could. I never wanted this for you. For any of us." His eyes softened for a moment, the ghost of the man he once was flickering through the pain. No, it wasn't supposed to be this way. We fought so hard to end the war. But the cost. He trailed off, his voice breaking again. The cost was everything. The light. It's all that's left now. Anya took a step back, her mind racing. What had happened here? What had they all sacrificed? She could feel the weight of history pressing down on her. The tragic end of an entire battle that had never truly ended. This place, this moment, frozen in time, where the dead still lingered, trapped in a never-ending cycle of their final moments. She couldn't free him. Not like this. Not with the war still hanging in the balance, and the truth of what had happened still buried in the past. But she couldn't leave him like this, either. She turned toward the stasis field, her heart heavy with the choice she knew she had to make. "How do I stop this?" she asked, her voice barely above a whisper. "How do I free you?" Theron's hollow eyes bore into her, a deep sadness reflected in them. "You can't. Not yet. Not until you understand the cost. Until you see the truth of what we lost, and what we never had a chance to save." Anya's chest tightened as she absorbed his words, a cold realization settling deep within her. The battle wasn't just fought with weapons. It was fought with time, with memory, with the choices they had made, and the consequences they could never take back. But there was no time to dwell on that now. She had to keep moving forward, even if it meant carrying the weight of this tragedy with her. The truth of the war, the cost of everything they had lost, was there waiting to be uncovered, and it would not let her forget. "I'll come back for you," she said, her voice shaking but firm. "I will find a way to end this. I promise." Theron's hollow gaze seemed to soften for just a moment, before the sorrow returned. "You can't. Time won't let you." And with that, Anya stepped away, leaving the command post behind, but not the memory of what she had learned. The battle had never truly ended, and neither had the war. The battlefield stretched endlessly before Anya, a cursed land where time had frozen like a dead clock. The scorched earth beneath her boots felt like a distant memory, the air itself heavy with a forgotten tragedy. The sun hung unmoving in the sky, casting a cold, sterile light over the ruins, an eternal witness to the day war. The land had been scorched by the weapon meant to end the conflict, but it had only delivered torment. Theron stood before her, his form flickering like a ghost, an impossible relic of the past, anchored to the battlefield by the weapon's strange, horrific power. His once vibrant eyes were now dull and hollow, drained of the warmth that once made him human. His voice echoed with the weight of centuries, though it carried the desperation of someone trapped in an eternal moment. "Do you see it, Anya?" he asked, his tone both pained and resigned. "This wasteland. It was meant to be the end of the Empire's reign, but at what cost? We were supposed to stop them. Instead, we created this endless prison." Anya's gaze shifted to the monument of blackened steel that stood at the center of the battlefield. The device, the weapon, loomed like a dark altar, casting an unnatural shadow across the land. She could feel its pulse, its power vibrating through the air, a chilling reminder of the day that had shattered everything. "The solar weapon," she whispered, her voice trembling. "It froze time, but it also trapped us." Theron finished for her, his voice a rasp. "It froze everything. Time, the land, the skies. But it also trapped the souls of those who died in the blast. Souls like mine." The revelation struck Anya like a physical blow. The lives lost in that singular moment, the screams of the fallen, the cries of soldiers whose names she would never know, they were still here. In this moment, they lingered, frozen in agony, caught between life and death. "But you should have died," she said softly, her eyes narrowing. "You weren't supposed to survive. The weapon malfunctioned, kept you here, like this." Theron nodded grimly, his face twisted in eternal suffering. "It wasn't the weapon's fault. It was my fate. I was meant to die, Anya. But I didn't. And now I am cursed. My body remains intact, but my soul is trapped, caught in the endless loop of time, living the same moment of pain and regret over and over, without end. Anya's heart ached at his words, but she steeled herself. Then why didn't you stop it? Why didn't you destroy the weapon yourself? I couldn't. I was too broken. Theron's voice faltered. And now, I am not sure if I even want to die. But you still have a choice. Anya's eyes darted to the shimmering device, its light flickering like the heart of some dying star. What do you mean? What choice? You can destroy it, Theron said, his eyes locking onto hers with a strange intensity. You can destroy the device. It would free me, release my soul from this prison. But, Anya, there's more. The weapon's power is not just to freeze time. It has the potential to reshape it. Destroying it could alter the past, undo the entire war. It might even change the future. Her heart pounded in her chest as she tried to process the weight of his words. The weapon, the device that had caused so much death, so much destruction, it could alter the very fabric of reality. Could she undo the past, right the wrongs of history, or would it all just collapse into something worse? Destroying the weapon, would you be free? She asked, her voice strained. Theron's face darkened, a flicker of fear crossing his features. I would be free. But I'm not sure if that's what you want. Freeing me would undo everything that's happened, everything that has led us here. The war, the destruction, the souls lost. Do you really want to erase it all, Anya? Do you want to face the unknown consequences of tampering with time itself? Her mind raced as she took a step forward, her thoughts a whirlwind. The weight of her decision crushed her. Free Theron, but at what cost? Could she live with the consequences of rewriting history? And more importantly, could she live with herself if she chose wrong? I don't know what to do, she whispered, her voice breaking. The choice loomed before her like a dark horizon, endless and terrifying. Theron's gaze softened, almost pitying. You don't have to decide now. Just remember, some choices can never be undone, and some shadows never fade. As the stillness of the battlefield pressed in around them, Anya stood alone with the weapon, the frozen land, and the man who was no longer truly alive. Time was still. The past was set, and the future, like a distant star, remained just out of reach. The sky no longer screamed. For the first time in what felt like forever, the battlefield stood still, not frozen by the weapon, but quiet, truly quiet. The unblinking sunlight dimmed. Shadows stretched across the scorched earth, as if the world was breathing again. Anya stood in the center of it all, her chest rising and falling with shaky breath. The rifle in her hand still smoked, the core of the time weapon shattered in a pool of glowing fragments at her feet. She had pulled the trigger. She had ended it. But at what cost? Theron, the last ghost of the day war, had fallen to his knees when the light cracked. His eyes, once locked in eternal rage, now blinked slowly. The stasis field broke like glass around him. His armor rusted in seconds. His skin dried and crumbled. Anya rushed to him. Theron. His voice was a whisper, dry as wind across ashes. We fought for the wrong cause. She knelt beside him, hands trembling. But you, Anya, still have the chance to make it right. And with that final breath, his body turned to dust, rising into the dying light, scattered on the wind. Anya closed her eyes. The silence pressed on her like weight. The time loop was broken. The weapon was gone. But she didn't feel victorious. She felt hollow. The battlefield, now without its unnatural glow, revealed the true horror. Burnt flags fluttered weakly in the breeze. Melted weapons, bones locked in battle poses, thousands of lives, trapped for centuries in endless war, had finally faded into nothing. She was the only one left. Anya staggered back, her boots crunching over cracked glass and blackened steel, her suit warned of radiation. The air was thin, but none of it mattered. She looked to the horizon. For so long, she had imagined this moment, freeing the past, ending the loop. But now that it was over, something deeper gnawed at her chest. Regret, loss, and something else, something darker. What now? As the sun dipped low for the first time in centuries, long shadows crawled across the earth. In the silence, voices whispered. They weren't real. Memories, maybe, or guilt. She heard her commander's last orders. The screams of civilians trapped in firestorms. Her own voice, once loyal, once so sure. Glory through sacrifice. She clenched her fists. That was the slogan. The one they had all bled for, the cause they had believed in. But Theron was right. It was a lie. She began walking, with no direction, no orders, just steps, one after another, through skeletons of war machines, rusted mechs half buried in the earth, through trenches where time had frozen bullets mid-flight, through graveyards with no markers. Hours passed, or maybe days. Then she found it. A small outpost, buried in the ash. An old relay station, its antenna still half standing. The screen inside flickered weakly when she powered it up. The system coughed out a static-filled message. If anyone hears this, the northern continent fell. Resistance is scattered. The war's not over. Not really. The enemy didn't win. But neither did we. If you're still alive, please, come home. Come home. Anya stared at the message. She hadn't had a home in years. But maybe that was the point. Maybe this wasn't about going back. Maybe it was about going forward. Creating something new, something better. She took the last canister of fuel from the base and returned to her ship, the Drifter's Echo, buried deep beneath the battlefield, hidden in time. The vines had started growing again. Nature was reclaiming what war had left behind. Before entering, she looked back. The sun had set. The sky was black. Stars blinked like silent watchers. And for the first time, the earth looked peaceful. Anya whispered a farewell. To all of you who fought, to all of you who died, I won't let it be for nothing. She entered the ship, set new coordinates, and as the engines roared to life, she rose above the battlefield. The screen flickered again. Another message, this one old, decades old, a file locked behind a war encryption. She cracked it open. It was a video. Her younger self, standing proud in a white uniform. Behind her, Theron, alive and smiling. Not the monster he became. A brother in arms. We thought we were saving the world, her younger self said on the video. But if you're watching this, we were wrong. The video glitched. Static. Then, if there's a future, build it better than we did. Anya's eyes filled with tears. She set the video on loop. Not for her. For the world she was flying toward. For anyone who would listen.